Okay, welcome and how the fuck are we going? This is the full mobility routine that you can apply before your sessions, after your sessions, or as I do, I have a specific dedicated day. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I'm going to do each of these exercises, how many reps you should do, and then have a few follow along cues so that you don't feel lost whenever you're doing stretching. One of the most important things I notice whenever guys try and get into the mobility is that they get distracted mid-stretch. Now there's a blend between doing dynamic stretching and then doing passive stretching, which we will go through as well when each one is applicable. But to get started, because we're starting with our lower half, we want to make sure that we've got good circulation and good blood flow. Rule number one with mobility in general, you need to have blood circulation and blood flow. Same with a steak. You cannot move a frozen steak. You can only move a steak when it's malleable, when it's warm, okay? Think of your muscles in the same way. So because we're doing a full body mobility, and because all mobility stems from your trunk and your core, you wanna make sure that that's nice and warm first and foremost. So you can get your core nice and warm in a number of different ways. One of my favorites is just to do some nice reverse scorpions and then some scorpions, because we want to get circulation and blood flow. Just do 10 each side and then flip over. 10 on the front. And trying to keep your shoulders down on the floor as best you can. Once you've done 10 each side, we want to just think of, with all of this mobility, the same fundamental principles, okay? It's front, back, side, side. So with our spine, we've just done side to side on the front and the back. Now we're going to go into what are called seal rocks and downward dog. So we go downward dog, pushing through. And if you look at the movement of the spine in this, it's going front and back. And I'll just do 5 reps of this. Again, we're not trying to sink too deep into the stretch right now. We're just trying to get good blood flow and good circulation. For some of you, you may only be able to go to here. For some of you, you may be able to go to here. It's completely fine. What we're doing is we're first warming up the tissue, and then we're reconstituting it over time. Once you go into this final 5th rep, add in some twists and get a good amount of range through there. Okay? Thirdly, we want to get good rotation through the hips as well. So now that our spine is quite warm, we'll get some good rotation through the hips with just some 90-90s. If you can do these without hands, great. If you need to use your hands or lean forward, no worries at all. The main focus is just about getting the movement and getting the flow. When I first started doing my mobility, I was stiff as a board. I'd played many years of rugby, never addressed it, couldn't get my hands past my knees on the toe touch. And then I started to get chronic back pain. And when I had this chronic back pain, it wasn't going away. I saw the physios, they said, hey, wear orthotics. Hey, just do this like one stretch and it's gonna help you, which was just band-aid solutions of a more fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem was that my whole body was tight and knotted up, okay? And because we're still in this priming phase, doing 10 hamstring pumps, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch legs. Now the best dynamic stretches are the ones where you have to activate your antagonistic muscles. So we're stretching our hamstring here, but we're activating our hip flexor to get that up. So that's going to be firing your hamstring, but also firing your hamstring, but also activating your hip flexor, which we're going to stretch out in just a second. And then getting through and just doing some more rapid pulls here. And the way we get into this movement here is we go leg straight at the bottom, and then we pull as far as we can with a straight leg. We're going to bend,
And then when we do our kicks, we're gonna be at max extension, okay? And again, we're just going dynamic. You won't injure yourself doing this, but you will feel a bit of a pull. Switch legs after you've done 10, pull to yourself with a bent knee, and then 10 kicks. 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Beautiful.
So now we're feeling pretty warm. Hamstrings are warm, spine is warm. We're just gonna do our hip flexors quickly, and then we're gonna get into the actual stretches. And this has been about 5-10 minutes. So this is how much it should actually take to start your mobility session. If you're trying to do it off cold muscles, you're pretty much wasting your time. So we make sure we're warm first, and then we go into the deep stretches. So I'm just gonna go through, hips tucked under. I'm just gonna do 10 reps like this. Now this is called an ATG split squat. If you wanted to make your ATG split squat more intense, then you can elevate your heel, which is gonna get more flexion at the knee. And you can do that by either adding a block underneath or a wedge. And if you need to make it a little bit easier, then we're gonna integrate some work with our good friend, the box here. And whenever we're going into these stretches, we're always active. We're never just moving through the motions, because that completely defeats the purpose of it, right? Is we're going in, hips tucked under, and then drive. Going in, hips tucked under, and driving over. When I first started, I was also on the box. So think of the box as your training wheels for mobility. The same way you can think of bands as your training wheels for mobility. So we've got the hip flexors warm. Now we've had the hamstrings warm. Our spine is warm as well. I'm just gonna warm up my upper back a little bit, because the upper back is one of the most neglected parts when you start getting into your stretching. Everybody will focus on the legs, which is great. They are the foundation, they're the trunk of your tree, which is the rest of your body. But if you have tight upper back, like most people do from sitting at a desk all day, myself included, then your upper back is going to be one of those parts that you need to address. And again, same principles, front, back, side, side. So when I'm doing my warm up, this changes to how I'd actually stretch it. I'm just going to do a straddle into a plow pose, okay? Just like that. And we do 5 reps. 3, 4, 5. And you may not even be able to touch your feet over your head. Most guys won't, but that's completely fine. Think about what we're actually trying to achieve here.
We're just going over, and we're getting some good stretch through the back of our neck. Now, I wouldn't expect most people to be able to even get to this position. But the goal here, like with all of our mobility, is that we want to hit certain benchmarks. When we hit certain benchmarks, like toes over the head, or when we're in a hamstring doing a standing pike with knuckles on the floor, if we ever get injuries or if we ever get niggles, we can isolate what the problem actually is. Because most injuries and most niggles aren't actually a case of a fundamental issue in your physiology. It is a case of you have tight muscles in a certain area. Like if you have knee pain, usually stems from having a tight IT band or tight quads. Okay, so that's warm up done. Just thinking through the fundamental principles is we go front, back, side, side, keep it dynamic, keep it moving, because we want to improve circulation, right? Now, getting into our hamstrings and our calves, the way that we do our lower body is that we work through our kinetic chain. So I'm going to start with my calves. I'm going to work up the back and then around and then into my quads. The way that we do that, it's really quite simple. Just gonna do 20 calf pumps. And this is going to be a dynamic stretching routine. I'm not going to do a passive stretching routine because I think for the majority of people, passive stretching is just going to be too difficult to start with. That would be the next level. If you can do a fast and dynamic routine like this, then you're going to see great changes because you're going to be releasing the tissue, okay? So starting off with your calves, doing 20, and then we're going to go foot next to hand like this, and we're going to do, these are called the world's greatest stretch, and we're just going to do 5 reps. Trying to get elbow to the floor, and if you can't get your elbow to the floor, then just regressing, bringing this foot backwards if you have to, and just sinking and twisting, sinking and twisting. I'm going to show you the most advanced version so that if you are at this level, you can copy along. So we've got 5 reps that side, push back, and this is where I need you to be locked in. 5 reps. And what you'll probably notice is that one side will be tighter than the other. For example, this side for me is much harder to twist in. And while that might not seem like a huge issue, if you think of the Leaning Tower of Pisa at the bottom of the foundation, it's not actually a problem. But as you start to build up, that's when it starts to become a shaky frame. So 5 reps of the world's greatest stretch there. And then, because we want to warm up our calves, we're just going to go into a nice wide hurdler calf stretch. And we're just going to do 10 reps like this. Again, slow and controlled. Driving your knee over your toe, keeping that heel down, because that's where we're going to get good stretch. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now this might feel a bit passive, so I'm going to get a kettlebell to just add a little bit of load on this one, because when we can start stretching at load, we can start strengthening in this range, which is essentially what we want, right? Most pulled muscles and most tight calves, we're doing 10 reps here. 2, 3. Because when you put stress in an elongated position, happens most of the time when guys are running, right? When you put stress at an elongated position like this, if you're not strong there, your muscle will pull because it's not used to having that much tension at that length. So if we can add the tension at this length in controlled environments, that's going to be when we have the best amount of ability to adapt and make sure we're injury free. Nothing worse than being a 60-year-old with chronic illnesses and chronic conditions that could have been addressed if you just didn't neglect them. Beautiful. And 10. Okay. So now that we've warmed up the calves, we're going to work our way up to the hemis. And again, this is going to be a dynamic one. If you wanted to do some more passive stretches to make sure that you're getting the full suite of this, I'd recommend doing something like a wide hurdler, which is just like this. And you might need to prop yourself up, but then you just sink in and grab the toe. And whenever you're doing a passive stretch, which I highly recommend, is hold them for 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Why 90 seconds to 2 minutes? You have this concept called your Golgi tendons. You have these muscles called your Golgi tendons, which are essentially, whenever you get that urge to come out of a stretch, that's what they are, okay? They pull because they say, we don't like to be here, we're at risk of injuring ourselves, so we're gonna pull back. It takes around 60 seconds for them to chill out, so that's why we're doing this. Then, calves are warm, we're gonna go into a nice dynamic pigeon like this. So the gold standard here is to get ourselves dynamic hands-free, pulsing through here, and then on the bench here, hands-free again, pulsing through here. This hip is quite tight for me this morning because I did squats yesterday. So I would recommend using a box, but if you don't have a box, then you can just simply do it on the floor. And we're going to go 10 reps. So the goal here is to get this back leg, is to get your back leg straight, and then this one at 90 degrees. If you're at 90 degrees, then you're in a good spot. Okay, and we're gonna go in, and it's gonna be 10 reps each. If you need to use your hands, use your hands. And then we're pulsing in, we're keeping spine neutral. We don't want rounding at the shoulders, because rounding at the shoulders just means we're taking tension off our actual IT band and our TFL, which is exactly where we want the stretch to be. This can be a common thing with most guys. And then as we're going into this stretch, just making sure that you're breathing out, sinking into it. This is exactly where we want to be. Deep in the stretch, enjoying the stretch. Enough where it feels uncomfortable, but not enough where it's too painful that you can't move. 8, 9, 10. And if I'm miscounting, I apologize. Turns out it's actually quite difficult to narrate, record, and do the stretches at the same time. So we're just switching legs here, and you'll notice one quad or one glute may be tighter than the other. We're just breathing into it. That's for 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Beautiful. Come out of that one, have a quick rest. And our resting position is always just going to be a double knee tucked like this. Okay, it's called sitting child sit. So if you can sit like a child, this is how we know if we've got good stretch through our kneecaps. If you can't sit in this position, guys, your quads are so tight that I have no doubt you have knee pain as well. So this is the goal, is that we can just sit here comfortably, give it 30 seconds, give our muscles a chance to relax, catch our breath, and then we're going to work on our hamstrings and groin. When we do our hamstrings and groin, again, we're just going to do 10 reps of each. Is there any magic to the number? Not really. It's just about keeping time and attention. It's easy to follow. So just go into a nice standing straddle like this, and then we're squeezing our glutes together, squeezing our thighs together, keeping our back nice and straight. And this is going to look weird if you're doing this in a public gym. Just get the fuck over it. 2, 3, 4, 5. And just being conscious to stay locked in throughout the entire movement. It's easy to get deep. I think that you're doing more stretch by rounding your upper back. It's the complete opposite. 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we're going to go straight into a nice, they're called frog rocks. So just go into the same straddle position. And the way that we do this is we kick our feet out. Again, this is going to be a weird one. We're just going to have to get over it. And we're just going to rock back and forth like this. If you need to bring your knees in together to get more range, that's completely fine. And then we just push through. Breathing out at the deepest part, breathing in when we're relaxing. And you should feel your hips just start to open up and release as we get through these. And again, just 10 to 20 reps. Because these are a little bit quicker, you can do more. 2 more. Breathe in. And then last one. Beautiful. So now we've done 10 reps of our dynamic pigeon stretch. We've done 10 reps of our standing straddle, 10 reps of our frog rocks. We want to hit our hip flexors because our hip flexors are going to be, for most guys, the limiting factor in the whole kinetic chain. If you ever have an anterior pelvic tilt, it's because you typically have tight quads, tight hip flexors, okay? So to do this, there is no better stretch than the ATG split squat. Now, if you need extra room, if you need extra range because you're so tight, then make sure you get a box. I personally still use the box even though I'm quite mobile on this one because I feel better stretch and activation through there. The key things when you're doing, we're going to do 10 reps and I'll walk you through. The key parts whenever you're doing an ATG split squat is one, keeping your feet completely neutral. We don't want flaring out like this because we're just going to be hitting more of our inner thigh here. This isn't what we want. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do a stretch, but there is just different activation and we want this stretch through the hip flexor. So that's where we're going to focus on it. Keeping hips tucked under, you'll feel a pull around here, and then we drive through. We don't want to have this hinge at the hip, which most guys do. Just hips tucked under. 8. 9. 10. And switching over, I'm not going to use a box this time, but I am going to use some light dumbbells so that you can see what this looks like as well. So we're going to go light dumbbells, and then because I did my left hip flexor first, I'm going to do my right one now. And I always do my weaker side first because I don't want the CNS fatigue or me being out of breath to impact my ability to do the exercise. That's 3, 4, 5. And if you want a bit more quad flexion at the front, you can bring that knee in. 7, 8. And just as a side on profile, this is how it looks. So we're here, feet are neutral, and then I'm driving down, and then back up. Driving down. If I get this far and I can't go any further, don't drop the knee, keep that there, and then come up. Because as soon as we drop that knee, we take tension off the hip flexor, okay? Just then we're there. That's 10 reps on your hip flexors. So just to recap what we've done, we've warmed up the spine, we've warmed up the lower half, we've warmed up the upper half, then we've gone into a dynamic pigeon stretch. We've done hamstrings and glutes through our standing good morning and our seal rocks. We've now hit our hip flexors. The other area that you can really focus on is a bit more quad. So we've gone outside, inside, hamstring, we've gone the front, but I also like to hit my quads a bit more because they are very neglected. Everyone thinks when they say stretching, it's all about hamstrings, but it's about the balance between the two. So what I like to do is what's called a reverse Nordic. And we're just gonna go down and then driving up. Now, if you can't do this, which I wouldn't expect you to, you can get a band, you can get a pole. And even if you just go to here and come back up, think about what that's doing, and we're gonna do 10 reps. What that's doing with your quads. You're getting stretch, but you're also getting activation at the stretch part of the movement. So the goal is that we would get eventually down all the way. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm on my way. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. And then we're just going to go into a nice child sit just to relax the quads and relax the legs a little bit. But this is the beauty of mobility, guys, is that it doesn't need to be complicated. You just need to go into the routines. And if you want to get more mobile with this, I'll do this full routine just once more over. 10 reps of each, slow, controlled, breathing deep into the stretch. That's all there is to it. But it does take time, it does take effort, and it takes commitment. But when you can sink into these positions, not only are you going to be pain-free, you're actually going to be in a more hypertrophic state. Hypertrophic meaning your ability to build muscle. So if you want to build more muscle, you want to have greater range. It's why range of motion is so openly talked about online with building muscle, but then nobody addresses how to actually improve the range of motion. They just say, do it. This is how you improve it, and then out in the gym is where you start developing on it, okay? So now that my quads, my hammies are feeling good, I'm feeling mobile, I'm gonna do some more work on my thoracic, AKA my spine, because this is an area where I know I personally need to get a bit better at, and you'll notice that you'll have one side again that's tighter than the other. So for me, I don't complicate my spine work at all. I just do as I did in the warm-up. I do front, back, side, side, and I really spam these plow poses at the moment because it's the only one I can really get that stretches my neck in that position. So I'll show you how that looks. And after I've done my 5, I'll sink into a nice plow pose and just stay there. I'm going to show you actually on the wall how it should look, because you can use the wall as an asset to really sink into this one a bit more.
As you can see, I can just walk my feet down, keeping the legs as straight as possible. And this is going to feel like quite an intense stretch for a lot of you, because your back will have never been stretched like this. So it's important just to relax. Know you're not going to die, and you'll feel better on the other side. Then we exhale and we sink in. Inhale, and then exhale, and then we sink in further. Stay there for 5. And then one more. Breathe in. Out and sink.
And you feel like you've been baptized after that. It's a great feeling. But that's the back of our neck. Now, the other side of your thoracic is actually very difficult to do. So I'm going to, essentially what you need to do is you need to either grab a dumbbell like this, which we can do here on this bench, but an even better one is you can actually get a band on a wall, and you can get that band to pull your upper back like this, because that's going to offset any rounding of the shoulders that you get from your day-to-day life, which we all have because we sit at a desk for the majority of the time. How this is going to look is we're going to sit here. Ouch. Sitting here, and the idea is that we drive the hands back like that, and then once you feel a bit more comfortable in there, most people treat this dumbbell pullover as as a hypertrophy exercise. I think of it more as a mobility exercise. Whatever you're doing hypertrophy style or aka muscle building, you want to be thinking about how can I get the most amount of tension with the least amount of focus on stability and activation. And this movement right here is not actually a great one for muscular activation because of how your mechanics work. So if you're going to do this movement, treat it as a pre-activation where you can get greater mobility. And then again, we're just going to be hitting 10 reps, keeping chest tall and letting the dumbbell sink below our shoulders. Two more. Last one. And always on your last one, try and sink as deep into it as you possibly can and hold it for a second. Beautiful. Okay, so to recap where we've gotten to so far, we've done our pre-activation. We've done our pre-activation, then we've gone into pre-activation of the whole body, then we've gone into our dynamic pigeon, we've done our groins to our good mornings, into our frog rocks, into our ATG split squats. We've also done some calves to warm up as well, and then we've gone into some upper back through the plow pose, which is also a great just dynamic exercise you can do on any session, and then some dumbbell pullovers. So now our spine is warm, our legs are moving free, and I think it's always interesting to know before you go into each one of these sessions is, okay, with the standing toe touch, the benchmark is knuckles on the floor, okay? Then with your ATG split squat, the benchmark is getting knee to the floor. How you go before your session, how you go after your session, because much like a pump in the gym is reflective of how much muscle you can have, your mobility after a stretching session is how mobile you can be and how pain-free you can be. So we really want to focus on that. The last one I want to do with you is just you thread the needle. It's one for your upper back. It's a nice, easy stretch. Essentially how it looks is we thread the arm through, sink onto the trap, 4, and then twist up. And then on that last one, really twist as far as you can. And I'm using my inside arm to push on my knee and get rotation through the spine. Then come out and twist. And then lastly, other side. Two, 3, 4, 5. And that is it. That is the full mobility routine. That is the full mobility routine that you need to do once a week. I can guarantee you'll release your tissue, you'll be pain-free. If you do it twice a week, that's fantastic. Personally, how I see these mobility routines looking best is they hide the peas in the mash. I do one on a Wednesday like this. It took me 30 minutes. Do one on a Wednesday, and then I might do one on a Sunday. But then before each session, I will just do, depending on what my day focus is, if it's a lower focus day, I would do something as simple as those dynamic pigeon stretches, do some frog rocks, and warm up my spine. It takes 5 minutes. It's going to warm up your tissue, and it's going to make sure that when you actually go into your workouts, you're able to just rip in. You don't need to fuck around trying to get warm, doing 4 or 5 sets of warm-ups. You can just do the pre-activation. You've addressed any niggles or pains, and if you need to do a bit more pre-activation going into your workouts, then do it. There's nothing worse than going into a workout, not feeling up for it, and then having it's just not quite there. It takes you 40 minutes to actually get into the meat and potatoes of it. Whereas if you just do The pre-activation first. Listen to your body, listen to what it actually needs, then you'll be sorted for life, okay? This is all it takes. Just front, back, side, side. Think of your shoulders, think of your spine, think of your legs. And if you like tips like this, and if you like follow-throughs like this, make sure you motherfucking follow for more. See you soon.